Do we have any audio for this? Good, thank you. I finally figured out what my problem was yesterday. I couldn't hear the noise. Anyway, hello everybody. This is Marilyn, and it's time for the noon edition of Welcome to My World. This is the 6th of October, and it is a Thursday. Audio is absent. Audio is good. Philip, I'm not sure. Anyway, okay. Well, I'll just continue on because this is being recorded, so you can get it later if you want. Anyway, this is just I'm just very happy because these markets have gotten back to normal morning markets. There's some movement. I thought September was just kind of a bear. We had some really tough days to trade. But anyway, all of the indices made some good moves today, both directions. But it looks like, it kind of looks to me like TF, the same as yesterday, led this parade. The ES has not moved a heck of a lot. It's been pretty tight. So I don't know if any of you trade that on the Nadex, which is a good place to trade it. In futures, it can be a little bit of a different animal. And I'm not a fan of it in futures, but on Nadex, it has a lot of liquidity, and there are a lot of strikes available almost all the time. Anyway, I saw some chat in here that was excellent about referring to these chop boxes and how these markets will sit there and chop in a tight little box for a while, and all you really know about those, the good news, stay out of those boxes unless you are Lori and can really trade them well. But when they break out of there, they'll break one way or the other eventually, and those are nice trades. So I think we had some of that just about everywhere. It looks like gold is kind of trying to make a little chop box right now too, but keep in mind, if you trade gold, the pit closes at 130, so a lot of the volume goes out of it right then. Anyway, the dollar has been very strong today. And what do we know when we have a strong dollar? The symbol on that futures market, if you want to watch that for an indication, is DX. But when the dollar is strong, those Forex pair crosses that have the dollar in them, the opposing currency goes the other way with some significant strength. So a strong dollar usually means you can get some nice Forex trades. And trading the DX is not a bad idea either, because it only ticks in $5 ticks like YM. So if it goes against you, it's not quite as painful. Anyway, bonds really had a nice move down this morning, and now they right there around what was that, about 10:30, usually 10:30, 11 is some of these markets will make a bit of a reversal. So if you've had a tough, choppy morning, kind of watch around the 10:30 or the 11 time. You might find a nice trade about that time. The VIX was up about, I don't know, 13 and 3/4 or something this morning, and it's just barely hanging on to 13 right now. So if that continues to fall, these indices are likely to go on up a little bit. Canadian dollar this morning with the news. The Canadian dollar had some really good news. Their building starts are way up. And the Canadian dollar couldn't quite figure out what it wanted to do about that, but it tends to track oil. And it went down a little bit, but now it's trying to worm its way back up again. I expected it with that kind of news to move up higher off of that news, but it didn't, which just goes to show you never know. You have to pay attention to the indicators. So, yeah, because of all that, that's very good, Lou. Lou says those building starts are up because of all the U.S. citizens moving up there. I kind of like that. I hadn't thought of it. Oh, since I don't like cold, I wouldn't think of that. I'd think about moving the other direction. But anyway, gold has really had, I mean, it's had a bad week. When it broke 1,300, I just not real sure what it's going to do here, but it certainly has had a bad week. Crude oil, if you notice, has moved up considerably. Brent got as high as 52.64 this morning, and I don't know if it's going to hold that. Its next big bogey is up here about 52.85, and crude oil it's been steadily going up, but as these things move in a big move like that over several days, it's that fifth and sixth day starts to get a little smaller and a little smaller and a little smaller till it backs off a little bit. So keep that in mind if you're trying to hold anything like through the Nadex. I forget if the Nadex lets you hold things over the weekend. I'm not sure about that, but I wouldn't be trying to hold crude oil over the weekend to think it's going to go up big time on Monday. It might, but that's not a real safe thing to do, I don't think. Anyway, bonds, even with this move up, if you notice on your C's chart or whatever it is that you've got the apex pattern indicators on, that thing is still putting in red apexes. So that's not too encouraging for bonds moving up. The Fed is all over the world. They're making a lot of noise. They're rumbling and mumbling, the central bankers, about raising interest rates versus lowering them below zero. But if the U.S. Feds raise the interest rates, they're trying to look for every excuse except the election to do that. It will cause bonds to go down, but it'll cause bonds to come back up, but the stock market will likely sell off. So that move down, of course, for all of us, it still makes for good trading. So that's why we pay so much attention to what the FOMAC does and what those wonderful folk talk about when they're talking about whether they're going to raise the interest rates or not. Because at first you may think, well, that's just, going to affect mortgages and borrowing and bank interest and all that stuff. But it really does have a spillover into the stock market. And these indices that we trade are all stock market. The stocks are the underlying basket of these things. So speaking of news, tomorrow we're going to have a whole bunch of news tomorrow. And I mean a whole lot. It's going to start about 2 o'clock in the morning with a lot of European economic numbers are coming out. So be sure and check if you like to trade the indices or trade early in the morning. Those currencies can also be traded in the futures market. Just watch your apex indicators really closely, but there will be a lot of movement in the British pound and the euro dollar. 8:30 is going to be more Canadian big news, unemployment and the employment change, and the U.S. will have non-farm employment change, unemployment rate. I mean, if you want to believe what they're going to tell you. And at 10 o'clock, there will be a little bit of news also, but if you get up and start trading at 8:30, be real careful of that news tomorrow morning at 8:30, because it's likely going to have a move. Anyone tries the 6-tick with 3T charts trading Forex? I'm not sure about that. Maybe somebody else. One of the things you can do with that, Abdul, is to put up a second chart just with that and compare it. And it usually takes a couple, 3 weeks of looking at something like that to decide if it's going to be useful for you. And does the YM and the NQ usually mimic each other? That's a good question. Typically, all of the indices are supposed to move pretty much in the same, they kind of move together. But keep in mind what they are. The YM, the underlying on the YM is the Dow 30. So there's 30 huge companies in there, really, really big ones. And that makes up the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And that's the YM futures are based on that basket of those stocks. The opposite of that is the TF, and that's based on the Russell 2000, and it's 2000. That basket is 2000 small cap stocks, and these are, I mean, things change, but typically what's in that basket are companies that do not have the financials under them to even be listed on the New York Stock Exchange. They're not that big. So in between there, the ES is based on the S&P 500, and the NQ is based on a basket of the NASDAQ stocks. So there's a lot of tech stocks in both NQ and TF. They're a little faster on their feet. So you might sometimes, and especially in earnings season, if you trade these, it definitely pays to pay attention to when, I mean, you'll look at some things about when they're going to announce their earnings, and there'll be like 265 companies are going to announce earnings and blah, blah, blah. Well, that may or may not do anything, but if one of those is named Google or Amazon, but that's